Chapter 9 Raja Guhya Yoga, the Yoga of the Greatest Secret. Verse 1. Bhagavan Śrī Kṛṣṇa said, "Because you are not envious, I shall now explain to you the greatest of all secrets. I shall explain this knowledge and its realization, knowing which you shall become free from all inauspiciousness." Verse 2. This is the greatest of all knowledge, Raja Vidya, and the greatest of all secrets, Raja Guhya. It is most purifying and most excellent. This path of Dharma is directly perceived. It is simple to practice and imperishable. Verse 3. O vanquisher of the enemy, those that lack faith in this path of Dharma can never attain me, and are forced to be reborn in the continuous cycle of birth and death. Anuvrtti. Now Śrī Kṛṣṇa will emphasize to Arjuna what he considers to be the greatest secret, or guhya, of the yoga system, so that any remaining doubt that Arjuna may still harbor might be dispelled. This has already been mentioned in previous chapters, but now Krishna will make it definitive. Śrī Kṛṣṇa is the absolute truth, the cause of creation, the origin of all living beings, the controller, the object of knowledge, the mantra Om, and so forth. One who knows this in his heart of hearts and lives solely by such a creed will surely attain Krishna. This is the positive incentive. The negative incentive is also explained by Krishna, that those who are not fixed in him will be reborn in the cycle of birth and death. In verse 3, Krishna uses the word ashraddha dana. Shraddha means faith, and ashraddha means without faith. This describes those who do not have the resolute determination to perform bhakti yoga. Of such persons, Krishna says that they will continue in the cycle of samsara. That is not to say that they are damned to some eternal hell, but simply put, they cannot attain the platform of liberation. First, it is important to understand that Shraddha is not to be confused with the belief or mundane faith that is usually associated with a particular religion, such as Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, or Hinduism. Christian faith, Muslim faith, Hindu faith, etc. implies a belief in a particular set of moral ideals, myths, superstitions, and dogmas. But Shraddha is something entirely different. Shat-dadati iti Shraddha. That which leads to truth and self-realization is known as Shraddha. Shraddha is developed by association with saintly persons who are self-realized and free from the contamination of material nature. In such association, the conviction develops that by surrender and taking shelter of Krishna, all other purposes are served. Without such Shraddha and fixed determination, one cannot follow the path of bhakti yoga. Verse 4. I pervade the entire cosmos through my unmanifest form. All living beings are supported by me, but I am not supported by them. Verse 5. Yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my divine powers. Although I am the origin of all living beings, and I maintain them, I am not influenced by them, nor by my material nature. Verse 6. Try to understand that just as the mighty wind rests within the vast expanse of the sky, similarly, all beings rest within me. Verse 7. O son of Kunti, at the end of the day of Brahma, all living beings enter into me. I manifest them again at the beginning of a new creation. Verse 8. Because I control material nature, I continuously manifest the living beings that are helplessly manipulated by their natures. Verse 9. O Dhananjaya, such actions cannot bind me. I am detached and indifferent to these activities. Verse 10. Under my command, material nature produces the universe with all its moving and non-moving beings. O son of Kunti, because of this, the universe continually manifests. Anuvrtti. Everyone acts in the material world, and everyone is held responsible for their actions by the laws of material nature, or the laws of karma. Newton's third law of physics states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. At a glance, this sounds like a good definition of karma, but karma is much more complicated than that. The saying, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, also does not accurately define the laws of action and reaction. Karma is far more intricate and complicated than a simple one-on-one analogy can provide. Suffice to say that when one performs an action, he is held responsible and thus liable for the reaction, whatever that may be. Material nature may therefore be considered superior to the energy of the living beings, in that the living beings have no control over material nature. People are expert in exploiting nature, yet they cannot control the adverse reactions that result from it. Śrī Kṛṣṇa, on the other hand, does not incur karma or a reaction when he acts, because material nature is always under his control. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Verse 11. Because they do not know my divine nature as the supreme controller of all living beings, those who are ignorant mock me when I assume a human form. Verse 12. All their aspirations, activities, and knowledge are futile and senseless. Such persons adopt a contemptible, malicious nature and become bewildered. Verse 13. However, those great personalities who do take shelter of my divine nature worship me with a steady mind and know me to be the imperishable origin of all beings. Verse 14. They are always glorifying me, endeavoring with determination and firmly fixed in their vows. Offering their obeisance to me with devotion, such bhakti yogis always worship me. Verse 15. Others worship me with the sacrifice of knowledge, considering themselves to be non-different from me. Others worship me in many different forms, while others venerate me as the universal form. Anuvrtti. Those that deride the message of Bhagavad-gītā are referred to as mudha, or having a foolish mentality. Intelligent persons, when confronted with the scope of knowledge in Bhagavad-gītā, will surely be in agreement, or at least charmed. For this reason, Bhagavad-gītā is the most widely read literature on theistic science in the world. Atheism is certainly not a new phenomenon, as there have always been such thinkers since ancient times. Yet atheism in modern times seems driven more as a reaction to fanatical religious dogma than by rational argument. Indeed, oftentimes the arguments of the atheist are as irrational as those of religious fanatics. When presented with an intelligent proposal, a rationalist should be willing to accept it, regardless of where that proposal leads, even if it leads to undermine his atheistic worldview. Such would be the mentality of a real seeker of truth or science. For the most part, in the modern arena of debate between theists and atheists, the student of Bhagavad-gītā would not side with either, because both are predominantly ignorant of higher knowledge. Coming in contact with Bhagavad-gītā, both the atheists and religious fanatics are silenced, because within the Gita lies the most definitive knowledge of the absolute truth ever revealed to the world. Verse 16. I am the ritual, I am the sacrifice, I am the offering, I am the sacred herbs, I am the mantra, and I am the clarified butter. I am the sacred fire, and I am the active offering. Verse 17. I am both the father and mother of the universe. I am the maintainer, the grandsire, the object of all knowledge, the purifier, the syllable Om, and I am the Rigveda, Samaveda, and Yajurveda. Verse 18. I am the supreme objective, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the shelter, and the dearmost friend. I am creation, maintenance, and destruction. I am the greatest wealth and the indestructible seed. Verse 19. I create heat, and I bring forth the rain, and I also withdraw it. I am eternality, and I am death. I am reality, and I am illusion, O Arjuna. Anuvrtti. If someone were to ask, where is Krishna? One might respond with another question. Where isn't Krishna? After turning over every stone and grain of sand in the universe, one would be hard-pressed to find something or somewhere that is not Krishna. Ultimately, Krsna pervades everything in the entire universe and beyond. He is uniquely an individual, our dearest friend, our well-wisher, and the speaker of Bhagavad-gītā. It may be interesting to note that in the history of the world, no literature other than Bhagavad-gītā so clearly and boldly proclaims the absolute truth. All other attempts pale in comparison. The absolute truth is directly speaking Bhagavad-gītā to Arjuna. Verse 20. Those who are conversant with the three Vedas worship me indirectly, and by drinking soma, they become purified and attain the higher planets. By their pious activities, they reach the abode of Indra, where they enjoy the celestial pleasures of the demigods. Verse 21. After they have experienced the extensive pleasures of the higher planets, their pious credits become exhausted, and they again enter the mortal plane. Therefore, the results of those who perform Vedic rituals to obtain material enjoyment are fleeting. Verse 22. But for those who are always absorbed in thoughts of me, who worship me, and who are always associated with me, I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. Verse 23. O Kaunteya, those that worship other demigods with faith actually worship me, but they do so improperly. Anuvrtti. Śrī Kṛṣṇa has mentioned those that drink soma. In ancient times, some 10,000 years ago, soma was a celestial elixir taken by the performers of certain Vedic rituals that was meant to elevate one to higher planets. Soma was not simply an intoxicant, as some readers of the Bhagavad-gītā have surmised. Only those fully conversant in the three Vedas, who were expert in performing Vedic rituals, were allowed to drink soma. Due to the passage of time, we do not know exactly how soma was made, but we do know that it was an elixir, and not simply an intoxicant, like wine, whiskey, or ganja. Those who are conversant in the Vedas reach the higher planets and enjoy celestial pleasures. Krsna says that when their pious credit is exhausted, they again enter the mortal plane of earth. Therefore, the understanding is that all endeavors for material pleasure are temporary, even those experienced in higher planets. But for the bhakti yogi, there is no need to perform complicated and costly Vedic rituals, because all the purposes of such ceremonies are fulfilled by acts of devotion and surrender to Krsna. The intimacy of the bhakti yogis with Krsna is such that he proclaims that he carries what they lack and preserves what they have. This is the extension of Krishna's shelter, ashraya, for those who surrender to him. This theme is repeated throughout the Bhagavad-gītā. Verse 24. It is I who am the enjoyer and object of all sacrifices, but those who are ignorant of my true nature fall down from the path of self-realization. Verse 25. The worshippers of the demigods attain the realm of the demigods. The worshippers of the ancestors reach the domain of the ancestors. The worshippers of ghosts and spirits go to the world of ghosts and spirits, but those who worship me come to me. Verse 26. If one offers to me with devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or some water, I will accept that offering from my pure-hearted devotee. Verse 27. O Kaunteya, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer in sacrifice, whatever you give in charity, whatever penances you undertake, do that as an offering to me. Verse 28. By doing so, you will become free from the bondage of karma and its auspicious and inauspicious effects. By renouncing the results of your actions and connecting yourself with me, you will become liberated and attain me. Anuvrtti. No one can live in this world without consuming something. There are some yogis in India that try to avoid entanglement with this material world to the extreme. To this end, they give up clothing, food, and even water. But because they do not recognize Krsna as the proprietor and enjoyer of all things, they eventually fall down from their position of false renunciation. We say false renunciation because real renunciation means to renounce the idea of oneself being the proprietor and enjoyer, and to recognize Krsna as the proprietor and the enjoyer of everything. In the stage of self-realization, one offers everything first to Krsna and accepts only the remnants of such offerings for his maintenance. The process of offering food to Krsna by chanting appropriate mantras is to be learned from the Guru. When food is offered to Krsna by mantra, the food becomes Krishnaized. This is called prasadam, or Krishna's mercy. Śrī Kṛṣṇa says that if one offers him, with devotion, a leaf, flowers, fruits, or some water, he will accept that. This means that non-vegetarian foodstuff such as meat, fish, and eggs, as well as preparations containing such things, are not offerable to Krsna. Food offerable to Krsna includes vegetables, fruits, nuts, grains, and milk products. It should be noted that being Gopal, the protector of the cows, Krsna is very fond of milk products, such as yogurt, butter, etc. A diet of such food offered to Krsna will make one healthy and fit for the practice of yoga, as well as free from karmic reactions. Verse 29. I am equal to all living beings. I neither hate nor favor anyone. Yet whoever worships me with devotion is with me, and I am certainly with them. Verse 30. Even if one is impious and has committed abominable acts, if he worships me with one-pointed devotion, such a person should be considered saintly, because his determination is perfect. Verse 31. He quickly becomes virtuous again and attains everlasting peace. O Kaunteya, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Verse 32. O Partha, even if persons of impious birth, women, merchants, Vaishyas, and laborers, Shudras, take shelter of me, they will also reach the highest destination. Verse 33. What to say of the pure Brahmanas and pious kings? Now, having come into this temporary world of misery, devote yourself to me. Verse 34. Always think of me, be my devotee, worship me, offer your respects unto me. In this way, by dedicating yourself to me and surrendering to me, you will come to me. Anuvrtti. It is important to note here that Śrī Kṛṣṇa says that he is equal to all living beings. That is to say that Krsna has no chosen people. Everyone is equal in his eyes, as his eternal parts and parcels. Krsna does not arbitrarily cause one person to enjoy life and another to suffer. Enjoyment and suffering are the results of one's own pious or impious activities in this life and in past lives. When one approaches Krsna, he reciprocates directly with that person. One does not have to be born in a particular country, family, religion, caste, gender, or race to approach Krsna. Nor is one first required to perform certain pious activities, such as penances or charity, before one can approach him. The door is open to everyone, and Krsna reciprocates with each individual accordingly. But there is also no doubt that those who are deeply devoted to Krsna and have taken shelter of him completely are very dear to him, and at the end of life they will surely come to Krsna in his supreme abode. Om Tat Sat. Thus ends Chapter 9, entitled Raja Guhya Yoga, from the conversation between Śrī Kṛṣṇa and Arjuna in the Upanishad known as Srimad Bhagavad-gītā, the Yoga Shastra of Divine Knowledge, from the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata, the literature revealed by Vyas in 100,000 verses.